one of the things that I think we can all agree on, and we've said a lot of different things over the last few weeks in regards to where the Falcons are, what we can really hang our hat on. Well, when it comes to our skill position group, we are one of the teams that is in the top 10 in the NFL. And I'm talking about Bijan, I'm talking about Drake, I'm talking about Kyle. I don't think anybody would debate that that's where we should be. Now, are we and should we be the number one team? No. Or the number one group that's from a skilled position standpoint? No, because I don't think as a group they've earned that.
Right.
But just based on brand and reputation, what Drake did last year, what Kyle did in his first year, what we project Bijan's going to be, this is going to be our big three, guys.
Yep. ESPN ranks the Falcons skill position group top 10 in the NFL. Who was it? Who was the guy that was downgrading our wide receiver room the other day? That was Field Yates, yeah. So, again, as we said the other day on the show, Carl, it's kind of the slow period before the camps open up again at the end of July. So it leaves the football writers with nothing else to do than compile lists. But in this case, I think they get this. Top 10 in the skill position groups? Yes, because we've got all the things you just mentioned. We've got wide receivers that are just so physically, imposing, tight ends who play like wide receivers, running backs who play like wide receivers, Bijan Robinson. We got a guy in Cordero Patterson. We're going to have to find a way to get him on the field this year.
No, I think this could, again, be one of the reasons why we not only win this division, but why we go to the playoffs for the first time since 5 years, right? It's been 5 years since we've been back in the playoffs. And these are the reasons why. Drake, Kyle, Bijan, and not in that order. I don't know how this is going to look, but I don't even care about that from a production standpoint. As long as we get in the end zone and these guys are making plays. Now, we talked to Drake London. We were up at camp, actually mandatory minicamp a few weeks ago. And when you are around Drake London, first of all, he's way more mature than his age. Secondly, he gets and understands where he's at in this thing. And when I say that, I'm talking about being a second-year guy, understand he's not projecting to do anything extraordinary. He's just like, look, I'm out here, I'm working, I'm trying to do what I can do. But, Mike, I also think he's got a chip on his shoulder, just like our quarterback. I think he understands. Dude, I was a top receiver taken in my draft. I got to show out. I got to show people what I'm about. So I think Drake is motivated. I know Kyle's coming off this injury. He's going to be motivated. But when you say, hey, the Falcons have one of the best skill position groups in the NFL, there's no debating that.
Well, if Garrett Wilson was number one, and again, if you look at the yardage, you look at the plays, if Mariota wasn't such a schnook, then this guy could have been the number one rookie receiver out of that draft class.
Could have been. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Wilson, rookie of the year, by the way, for those who don't remember, with the Jets. And that's why the projection for the Jets is so high. And then with Breece Hall coming back, they've got some weapons. Both of those guys are rookies. Either one could have ultimately won it, but they did. But I think Drake wasn't in the mix, to your point, only because we had a guy that he couldn't get him the ball.
And then the good news is once we got our guy out there, Ritter did develop. Again, you could see the chemistry. There was more connections there because, look, I know these guys have got a catch radius, but you got to keep the radius within a half a mile, and Mariota couldn't do that on a regular basis. Speaking of the Falcons' skilled positions, a cool video blog that Torrey McElhaney did with Scott Blair at the Falcons website today. Question you and I have asked before. It was November that the torn MCL took out Kyle Pitts. He should, again, another guy should have better numbers before he got injured because of Mariota. How many times was he open that Mariota either didn't see him or overthrew it or did something dopey with the ball? Either way, the question they were asking is, what is a realistic expectation for Pitts, who they've had to slow roll through the spring workouts because of the MCL surgery back in November?
15 touchdowns, 1,500 yards.
Okay, that's a lofty goal. Now, some would say that's an unrealistic goal.
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. You said Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
All right, 1,200 yards. What?
Okay,
Kyle Pitts is the fourth pick in the draft.
Well, yes, that would certainly validate the pick after last year's injury and the fact we had a crappy delivery system in Mariota. But
1,200, eight touchdowns.
Hey, see, there you go. I'll go with the latter, not the former. I don't even give up about the yardage. The red zone, the frickin' red zone. 8 to 10 touchdowns for Pitts. How about that?
I think that's a reasonable number. The reason why the yards matter, it's like Julio, unfortunately. Julio was such a big part of the offense in moving the ball and getting first downs. It didn't translate to the touchdowns as much as we wanted, but a lot of those drives were sustained with Julio catches. I think Pitts can be the same way, Mike. Right. It doesn't mean he's going to catch all these touchdowns. 8 to 10 is reasonable. But if you're moving the ball and he's move the chains, then he's going to have a lot of yards. And that's why I say, what did he have his rookie year, right? Over 1,000 yards his rookie year. 1,200, Mike. 1,200.
Okay. Now this gets back
Drake
to
London,
Yeah.
1,515
Well,
touchdowns.
then now you've got our boy Desmond Ridder throwing the ball 30 times a game. I think 30 times a game might be.
Bijan, 900 yards and 15 touchdowns.
Now, again, if you're throwing the
And
ball
50 catches.
If you're throwing the ball 30 times a game, that means our quarterback's going to go 30 for 30, apparently. And these guys are going to be unbelievable.
Why does this sound so unrealistic to you guys? Day's looking at me like I'm from outer space.
Yeah.
Chris is looking at, why are these numbers sounding unrealistic?
Well, the realistic side to this is 1,000 yards isn't what it used to be because of the 17 weeks of football.
This is true.
So what's the number? 74 yards, Chris? Florida State math. Help me out. So 74 yards a game. Get 74 yards a game times 17, you got 1,000.
Yeah, he's going to do that. I'm telling you. 15 touchdowns.
Now, see, you actually, you know what, last week I heard you in trouble. You're like, yeah, Mike thinks he's going to throw it like 12 times a
Yes,
game.
because you've been saying it.
Yeah, but you also, you're taking me out of context. You also said you believe the PFF numbers, and he's going to throw for 5,000 yards. He's going to beat Drew Brees' single-season passing record.
All I know is they're going to unleash him, okay?
Unleash the Kraken.
They're going to unleash him. They are going to allow him to do way more. This is where I disagree with you and Squid and all these other people.
By the way, it's 58 yards. Thanks, Chris. You didn't get that right.
That's nothing. 58 yards is
1,000
nothing.
divided by 17 is 58.
Yeah, it's nothing.
58
The
yards.
1,000-yard thing is overblown now.
I didn't get hired for my math skills either.
You and me both, partner.
Well, but this is where I disagree. They're going to unleash him, Mike. They're going to let this kid play like he needs to play, as they should, which is why Drake and Pitts and Bijan's numbers are going to be off the charts.
No, I do agree with you.
15
in the sense
touchdowns.
Bijan, if he can be the rookie of the year, and by the way, I don't care how many yards. I just want all I want is the touchdowns. I want red zone. We should be, if this goes according to plan, what we think is going to be the plan, as best we can read what Arthur's going to do.
Well, we got a great skill. This is why we're ranked top 10.
But this should be the remedy for all the. Let's be honest. The red zone problems existed during Matt Ryan's some of his best years.
They did.
We kicked far too many field goals for this franchise. But lucky for us, we had Matt Bryant. Now we got Young Wei Koo. But this team settles for way too many field goals.
What do you guys think? 404-726-0929. I have lofty goals because I believe. Okay?
You got 4 games to see this, dude.
I have lofty goals because I believe. It's time you guys start believing, too. Day, stop looking at me like that, okay? 15 touchdowns.
Wow.
Okay?
Oofa. Well, I mean, if all this comes to be, then we are going to be number one by a long shot over the Saints. We're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to be winning some games. I like it. Look, I want to believe.
I want to believe.
So according to you, we're going to have 5,000 yards passing, 75 touchdowns on offense between those skill position guys. Yesterday, I said we're going to double our sack total from 21 to 42. So if you didn't know any better and you listened to the show the last few days, you'd think we're wearing cheerleader outfits right now.
No doubt. But
Let's go
Falcons.
Well, speaking of outfits, I think, Mike, I figured what this is all about.
Lay it on.
Carl's trying to get ahead of the Desmond Ridder curve, so the Falcons are friends at the Falcons and the PR staff. He's trying to have them slide him a number 4 jersey in his cupboard.
Well,
I think that's what this is all about.
Let me tell you about the PR staff up there. I'm glad you brought this up. It's Dukes and Bell at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. You know, I'm getting text messages now about how they're missing their watermelon lime up there.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now they're missing their Heyman watermelon lime. So to your point about sliding jerseys into cubbies, all right, Chris. I mean, we got to take care of these guys up there. But it has nothing to do with what Desmond Ridder's going to do.
Again, Georgia Crown, we need to get the beer to those people. Come on.